Welcome to the Propreneur Podcast, where we help practice owners become better entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Dino Watt.
Hi, this is Tonya Burns with Complete Dental Practice Consulting, and I'm here to talk with Dino today about how to make your practice better in the area of managing your team. And you're listening to Dino Watts with Best Practices.
Welcome once again, everybody, to Best Practices Podcast. I'm your host, Dino Watt, and today I'm excited to share with you how to have your dream job, how to actually create your practice to be something that you enjoy going to every single day, that you wake up in the morning going, yes, I can't wait to get to work today. And we're going to learn how to do that with Tonya Burns. Tonya, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Dino. How are you?
I'm amazing, and I'm thrilled to be talking with you because anytime I can talk to somebody who's going to help a practice owner lead their team better, I'm excited to hear about that. That's a conversation that warms my heart. It's a conversation that wakes me up every single day to do this. So excited to have you here. You're calling in from Michigan, is that correct?
Yes, I am. A little cloudy here in Michigan today, but still warm, so we'll take it.
Yeah, you better take it. In just 3 weeks, you're going to be worse than cloudy. You're going to be frozen over.
You could have snow. You never know.
That's right. It's true. Well, Tonya, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and about what your company does, how you got into this whole crazy world of consulting for practice owners.
Sure. So I started in dentistry 23 years ago as a dental assistant. I was young and hungry and was just a sponge. I wanted to learn as much as I could. And so I got into learning a little bit about the front desk and met a dental consultant who took me to the front desk, taught me how to run a practice, and then I actually went to work for her consulting company. So there became my love of helping dentists and their teams. With that, I worked for another national consulting company as well. We got purchased by them, and I was traveling nationally, working with practices in their practices on their systems. And then I was also helping to analyze the numbers and working with another team of consultants on really diving deep into that and seeing how we could help make these practices better and what we could do on site to impact that. Along the way, I decided, maybe I want to go back to private practice. So I went and returned to the startup pedo practice that I had been managing. And we grew that practice from a 1-doctor, 6-chair facility to a 3-doctor, 14-chair facility. But along the way, I still had that love of wanting to help dentists and their teams. And fortunately for me, the doctor that I worked for supported that dream. He actually even advertised for me and told friends. So I kind of consulted on the side while I was working for him. And about 2 years ago, I took the plunge and decided to start this consulting company, Complete Dental Practice Consulting, and with it, be able to really take all those things that I had learned in all the seats that I sat in a practice and how I could effectively help dentists really get to that level they wanted to be at. Sometimes it's even uncovering things that they don't even realize that they're missing on the business side because that's just not their forte. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so funny too, right? Like so often they have no idea. Well, because they haven't been taught, right? They weren't taught as business owners and they are just going throughout their day trying to make everything work. And so to have somebody like you to be able to say, well, what about this? And what about that? It makes it a lot easier. There's a lot I want to uncover with that and unwrap with what you just talked about. First of all, why dentistry? Like, I believe that everybody has a story around what they do and what brought you towards not just, there are people who just go get a job in dentistry. Oh, I'm an assistant, whatever, but then they move on. You have made this your career. Why?
So it's interesting. I was actually going to school to be a teacher. And really, as I was in college and thought, I really don't think this is what I want to do. And it was one summer I was a lifeguard and didn't start lifeguarding for a few weeks and had some friends of the family say, hey, why don't you come into our dental office and just help us sterilize some instruments? And I was like, Sure, why not, And that was actually where my love of dentistry was born. And I switched my entire career path in school and went towards dentistry. What kept me in dentistry all these years is it's ever changing. I am very active and I don't like to do the mundane same thing over and over again. My hat is off to hygienist. I thought I wanted to be one until I learned more about it and thought, nope, that's not for me. But I love that every time you think you've got it figured out, all the rules change, whether it's insurance, whether it's new technology. It's like a brand new thing every day in dentistry. So really piqued my interest and it's kept me there.
So interesting that is the thing for you, right? That it's like ever changing, where I don't know about you, but I hear often people like, oh, it's changing again. Why can't we just have the same thing? I mean, I believe the number one killer of most practice owners is that's just the way we've always done it, right? Using those words is like, that's going to kill you. But that's what like made you want to do that. Now, then you took it to a whole nother level and you decided to have your own business inside of this industry, right? Like you could have been working for the corporations, you could have been working for the other people. What fuels that entrepreneurial spirit from you?
I think the entrepreneurial spirit was the side effect of the wanting to help. I have this incessant need to help people. I've always been that way. And I think that there's a real void in the coaching and consulting arena in dentistry in a lot of ways, because many times people don't have the experience of sitting in all the seats. And it's easy to walk in and tell a practice owner, hey, you need to do this and you need to make more money. And if you want to achieve these goals, but it's another thing to have sat in those seats and really understand what they're going through. We are huge advocates for the team in this company. And we work with those teams as well to push them to their limits, to maximize their efficiencies, but also to make sure that the doctors are getting those return on investments and when to say, hey, we've got to do something else here. And I was fortunate enough early on that I worked for an amazing consulting company, and she helped give me that drive into I could be more than I thought I could be. And back then, it was my dream to own a consulting company. I never thought I would be able to make that dream come true. But I'm not a person that lets much stand in my way. And one day I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. And here we are 2 years later, and we're growing and we're helping people. And we can't wait to help more.
That's awesome. It's very, very cool. Okay, so you mentioned something that's really near and dear to my heart, which is the team aspect of things. When I walk into practices, I'll often say, hey, look, guys, I have zero interest in developing great employees, but I have all the interest in the world in developing great human beings and teams. Because if I do that, then it makes the employee side so much easier, right? So
Right.
What is it for you that is the drive around team? Like, why for you did you narrow and like hone in on, out of all the things we can fix and help and make the lives easier of these doctors, it's the team?
Because I think so often they are second to the doctor in consulting programs and relationships because they're not paying that bill. And so it's, what do we want? What does the doctor want? How are we going to accomplish that? And in all fairness, because there are some great consulting companies out there that haven't sat in all those seats. They've got different backgrounds and they do amazing things. But I really believe when you've sat in the seats of those different team members in a practice and you understand what they go through on a daily basis, it really can enhance that relationship because you know how they feel. That's one of the biggest things we hear when we go into practices. They're like, wait, you've done this before? And that really makes that connection with them. So that we can help them effectively, and we help try to bridge that gap between the doctor and the team because sometimes they're in very different places.
Yeah, there's a huge gap between them sometimes, right? It's like the Grand Canyon that happens, especially because sometimes there can be, from the leaders, there can be this idea of the patient is first because they pay the bill, right? And I often will do, and this has been ingrained in, I think, a lot of team members' brains too. There's a piece in my training where I talk about relationships, and the most important relationship is you. And then the second, I'll say, so who's the second most important relationship in a practice? And probably about 7 times out of 10, they'll say, oh, the patient. I'm like, well, no, it's the team. Like, without the team, you're not going to treat the patient better. So it's so important that you do that. What are some of the biggest kind of breakdowns that you see between the practice owner and the teams?
So probably twofold. First, effective leadership. So often dentists are so busy clinician wise in their practice, and they are diving deep. They don't know how to lead the entire team, especially on the administrative side of things. So I think that that's one gap. The other is communication. I still find it crazy how many practices I encounter that don't have monthly meetings or any form of a team meeting or morning huddles to help them have a better day, because they don't find it necessary, which lets me believe that they've never been taught how to do that effectively. And when you've got those two things going on in a practice, it's a recipe for disaster most of the time.
Absolutely, because it's like leading a professional football team without a coach, right? Without
Absolutely.
a set standard, and you just can't do that. I always find that fascinating that it just doesn't. Well, I'm going to say this, but I also understand the reason behind it. But it just doesn't like compute to them of like why they should do that, and yet. On the other side of that is it goes back to the beginnings of one of my biggest complaints, concerns about the industry in general is they're not taught this in school, right? Out of all of the technical things they learn in school, they're not taught how to deal with human resources, how to deal with personalities, how to run a business, how to be an entrepreneur. And yet then they're just pushed out into the world and say, oh, good luck, learn it from the other guy who also didn't learn it in school. Learned it from, the School of Hard Knocks, which is valuable, but also can often be outdated, can also be not a great place to learn it. So that's amazing. Tell us when you talk about having a dream practice, like it almost sounds cliche to say, right? It almost sounds like people are, oh, you can have the dream practice. Like, yeah, well, my practice is a nightmare, So what do you do that you feel, besides being obviously somebody who came from that world? And that's one of the things I like most about consultants is in the consulting space, those are the people who usually do the best, are ones who actually came from that place, right? Mm-hmm. So besides that having that background, what are some areas or ways that you create what you call the dream practice for these doctors, or help them create it, I should say?
So one, they have to recognize what's their vision, what's their goal. I always tell people, it doesn't matter what I want for you, what do you want for yourself? And most of the time they don't know what that is, or they do know what it is, but they don't know how to make it a reality. So I build around, what does the doctor want? And then I go for, how can the team help them accomplish that? And truly, everybody's dream is different. There is no program that you just walk into and go, here you go, this is going to work for you. We don't work in that capacity because every practice is so different. I've been in hundreds of practices and I've never been in the same one twice. So really getting in touch with, what do you want for your practice? Do you want to work 5 days a week? Do you want to work 10 hours a day? I have doctors who will say to me, I really want to cut back on my hours. And okay, that doesn't scare me at all. How do we maximize the hours that you're working? And so it's really to make sure that they understand, what do you want first and foremost, and then let me help you realize that.
I think that's so powerful. And I'm so glad that you said that, because most people don't know what they want. And I'll often go in and tell the doctors, look, you got to realize that these people, your team members, wake up every single day to make your dream come true. Right? They're not walking in the office going like, oh, this is my, some of them is their dream job, but they're there to make their dream come true. So you better know what that dream is, because if not, you're lost in the wilderness. I often equate it to like Moses, right? Like, how did he get people to have him follow him for 40 years? Like, that's a long time. He must have had a pretty specific dream, right? So that's awesome. So any other areas that you say that you look at and go, oh, okay, you got to have that vision, but you also need to have what?
So you've got to have solid systems in your practice.
Mm.
I really see so much about new patients and marketing. And again, there are fantastic marketing companies out there, but it does you no good to spend money marketing if you can't keep them in your practice. I did a seminar and I started talking about retention, and many people said, what is retention? I've never even heard of that before. And I see a lot of practices and their retention rates are 50, 60%. And sadly, they think that they're scheduling everybody to come back, which they may be, probably not everybody. But the other thing is, how many of those cancels and fails are getting lost through the system in the middle of it, and it's killing their practice. So often they want to spend all this money on marketing, and it's like, you don't have to spend the money on marketing. You have patients right in your practice that you could tap back into. That untapped revenue source there is huge, and we can grow practices 10, 15, 20% just by that, not even doing marketing quickly by using systems.
It's funny. I have a mentor of mine who uses the phrase that I use on my doctors sometimes, especially when it is something like a marketing program that they're just throwing money at. They're not even really looking at the ROI on that, but they're like, hey, I'm marketing, right? And I'll just say, why do you hate money so much? Like, you're just
Yeah.
throw it away like that, like, and you don't want to get it. You're not only throwing away the money, but on the other side, just like you said, you're not going after the money that's literally right in front of you. You're walking over the dollars to get to the dimes.
Yep.
And you could have, there's a pool right in front of you if you just focused on it and cultivating it. So important. One of the things that makes, I think, you pretty unique is that not only did you come from this industry, but you also have seen the evolution of what's been going on over the last couple of years. I'll even say, I think the last 10 years has been quite, with Invisalign, with new liners coming out, 3D printing, 3D x-rays, like so many other technologies. And I think it's a good thing. But I also think that in the next, I'm going to give it 5 to 8 years, we're going to see even more of an evolution, because we're going to see people who are doing, doctorless exams, right, with the hygienist. You're going to be seeing virtual exams happening, which are already happening in a lot of places. So what do you see? I would like the listeners to kind of hear Tonya's idea of what's going to happen in the future, so that they know that you're someone who's looking ahead and you're kind of looking in that crystal ball. What do you see happening that people need to prepare themselves for?
I think that we're really going to see more of the medical side of things getting into dentistry. I always use this analogy that the day that the insurance companies figure out that your mouth is part of your body, we're going to be in a better situation. And there's not that divide. But there's so much going on out there with the sleep studies and sleep apnea and what dentists can do as part of that. I think that that's going to be a huge change in dentistry itself. Technologically speaking, we are going to continue to advance. My only hesitation in the technology is people have to remember it's garbage in, garbage out. The technology that you use and that hooks up to your computer system, it's only as good as what's getting inputted in there. So the human nature side of it has to remain at the forefront and let the technology do the work for you. But be the drive behind that. But that's where I really think that we're going to see more of that medical integration and that increasing technology.
Such a great point, that it's a tool, it's not in replacement of. And a lot of people, they go to these events, they'll go to the big ADA conference, or they'll go to the Chicago Midwinter Conference, right, and see these huge new toys, and they'll go invest in the big toy, like, this is going to be the thing that changes my practice. And it's like, no, this is just a tool, guys. Like, you can't, because most of them, well, not most of them, a lot of them, and you've seen this, you walk in and you're like, hey, what's that? I'm like, oh, this is our cool new toy. How long have you had it? 2 years. How much have you used it? Like 3 times. It's like, great. That did not do what you thought it was going to be. I like the idea that you said too about understanding the medical side of things. I was just reading recently, I don't know if you saw the study about how they're being able to link mouthwash usage as something that is stopping your heart rate from staying high after you work out to burn calories. Like if
Really?
you,
No, I have not seen that.
yeah,
Interesting.
it was crazy that they did the study where they said they took people and right after they got to work, because obviously after you're done working out, the goal is to keep that heart rate high so it's burning more fat.
Yeah.
And if you use mouthwash, it actually will drop down and suppress your heart rate. Like that's crazy stuff that no
Yeah.
one ever thought of. And now we're learning things. So yeah, the medical side of things is definitely here. Like you mentioned, sleep apnea. I agree too. I think it's one of those things where more and more people are going, oh, what we act, like you said, garbage in, what we put into our mouth. It's not just about this part of it, but it's about our teeth. And I mean, we already know how much, heart disease and so many challenges come up with that. So this is a part of the show that I like to just ask some very straightforward questions, kind of quick answer type questions. Are you game to play?
Sure.
All right. So when it comes to inside the practice, what do you think is the most expensive thing that private practice owners are missing out on in their practice?
That retention, hands down.
Absolutely, right? It's like, it's so funny. Here's money right here. No, 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 no. I would rather go over this way. It's like, but it's right here.
Yeah.
But it means that I have to train people. It means that I have to oversee. I have to actually look at my numbers and be accountable. Like, yeah, that's great. I love it. So what's a book that every private practice owner should be reading, do you think?
I love Vivid Vision by Cameron Harold. I think it's
Wonderful.
great.
I'm going to name drop here.
Okay.
Cameron and I are actually in a mastermind together, and he's a great guy. He's really good. But I agree. I actually have all of my clients do the Vivid Vision because I know how important that is. So great.
I got to hear him speak. He is amazing.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. In my book, The Practice RX, I focus a lot on team culture and team performance as the foundation of business growth. What do you see as the biggest challenge private practice owners are facing when it comes to their teams and office culture, which I know you see a lot of?
Tons of it. So it goes back to that leadership. If there's a lack of leadership coming from the top, it typically equates to toxicity within the practice because somebody's trying to be boss. And many times it's more than one person trying to be boss. And so that toxicity exists, but staffing shortages are so bad, practice owners are afraid to do anything about it. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Okay, are you trying to give me a promo for my new book coming out called Hire and Fire Like a Boss?
Maybe I am.
Yeah, it's true, right? It's like they are so worried about it. And look, we're in a great economy right now. So it's going to be harder to find people, but that is no reason to cut corners. And I always say, again, if you're not really focusing on hiring 3 times slower and firing twice as fast, you're creating that toxicity that you mentioned in your practice. I always say you can either have a staff, which is an infection that nobody wants, or you can build a team.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. So that's the big part of it. Okay. I don't like to, most shows and stuff leave this to the ending. I don't want to leave this to the ending. How can people get a hold of you before we finish up here? How can people, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
They can just visit me at my website, CompleteDentalPracticeConsulting.com. So long, I know. But it'll tell you how to get a hold of us, a little more about what we do, and the people on our team that we have that can help enhance your team.
That's awesome. Very cool. All right. So what's the best advice that you've ever received in business or in life?
So it's a saying that the very first consultant that I worked for said, and it's always stuck with me, but it's firm in principle, flexible in procedure. So, and I've always used that with my clients. It doesn't matter if we go the exact same route to get from A to Z. It's that we get to Z. And so, and everybody does things differently. We learn differently. So I've really stuck by that, and it's helped a lot.
Say that again. Firm in principle.
Flexible in procedure.
That's great. Good. That's like a bumper sticker everybody should put on their car right now.
Right?
Okay. The best resource or tool that every private practice owner should be using to grow their practice right now.
Hands down, they need a coach. They need a consultant. They need somebody to advise them what to do. People who've been in these situations before that they haven't. And whether it's a big program, a little program, just somebody to tap into.
I love that. I think it's one of the main principles behind taking your practice from good to great, that excellence factor. It is. Even Tiger Woods uses somebody just to say, hey, you should probably be looking at it this way, because there's a great book called The Road Less Stupid. And in it, he talks about how, you can't smell your own breath. And so you got to have somebody there going, hey, dude, you need a mint. And the same thing in your practice, like, dude, you need a mint too, or you need to change up your practice.
Yeah.
Well, Tonya, you are a wealth of knowledge and a lot of fun. And thank you so much for spending your time with us today and sharing your wisdom with everybody listening. It's definitely a pleasure and an honor to have you here. I appreciate all of your wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the invite. It was my pleasure as well.
Awesome. Well, everybody, please check out Tonya. Go to her website, check her out, and definitely get that consultant. Make sure that you are using the best practices in your practice, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks so much again for listening to the Propreneur Podcast. We really appreciate your support. If you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you do so. Also, if you feel like you might be a good fit for our podcast as a guest, or know somebody who you think would be, go ahead and email us at dino@dinowatt.com. Again, thanks for support. We'll see you on the next episode.